Currently seeing views inside of Node 2 as the Crew-4 astronauts head towards the hatch, ingressing inside of Dragon Freedom. Again, we're looking for
Freedom on the big loop. How copy? SpaceX Freedom on the big loop. How copy? Houston Freedom on the big loop. How copy?
Dragon, Houston on the big loop, we hear you loud and clear. SpaceX can hear you, but they are not able to respond, so we're still working that on the ground.
Okay, copy that. And Freedom has Houston loud and clear.
Copy.
And Houston, you want me to stand by for that, or you want to call us back in for another comm check with SpaceX later?
We will call you back later.
Okay, sounds great.
Again, we're looking for an undock time of 10:35 a.m. Central Time, 11:35 a.m. Eastern Time. We're looking for the crew to ingress in just about 5 minutes to follow just about 10 minutes later. After that, we'll have the prime for undock, Nicole Mann, affix the APAS hatch, closing the hatch inside Node 2. We're also looking for vestibule depressurization around 9:10 a.m. Central Time. A final go-no-go poll for undocking will happen around 10:20 a.m. Central Time. After undock and separation is called around 10:35 a.m. Central Time, we'll have a series of burns to get Dragon safely away from the International Space Station. The first milestone after retreating from the station, Dragon will exit the keep-out sphere, and then the next milestone will be the approach ellipsoid. We'll have a series of a few more departure burns, and we'll be looking for a deorbit burn today at 3:01 p.m. Central Time, sending the command for Dragon to deorbit and splash down off the coast of Jacksonville, Florida later today around 3:50 p.m. Central Time. Again, NASA astronaut Nicole Mann will be watching the entire undocking and departure from the cupola, inside of the International Space Station, and she will be backed by mission control teams here in Houston and Hawthorne. As you've heard several times, Dragon's flight is intended to be autonomous, but the crew on board has the ability to take control and maneuver Dragon during departure if necessary. Here we have a view inside Node 2 again. This is Crew-4 saying goodbye to their crewmates.
Houston Station on 2 for SpaceX, looking for a go in 3.1.
SpaceX on 2, comm check. And Dragon Crew SpaceX on 2, comm check.
Dragon has you loud and clear.
Kjell, great to hear from you, and we heard your last.
We're going to get up to Dragon here shortly, and we'll do a comm check from there.
Dragon Houston on space to ground 2, you have a go for 2.1.
Dragon copies.
Station Houston on space to ground 2 for an available crew member in the node 2.
For node 2.
Yeah, just letting you know that the node 2-1 camera image keeps going in and out. If you could check the connection for us, we'd appreciate that.
And work.
If you're just joining us, good morning and welcome. You're watching live mission coverage of NASA's SpaceX Crew-4 mission. We are currently awaiting all 4 crew members of Crew-4 to ingress or board Dragon Freedom for their return flight home.
On the big loop, comm check.
Dragon Houston, we hear you loud and clear on the big loop. How us?
We have you loud and clear.
And this is SpaceX. We've got you loud and clear on the big loop. How us?
SpaceX, this is Freedom. We have you loud and clear. Great to hear you.
You too, Kjell, and we did copy your last from node 2, your go for 3.1 and 2.103. As discussed, change out to LIO cartridge 2, and then we'll pick up with the hatch closed event detail.
Okay, we copy. We are going 3.1. We expect 1 to be the active LIO cartridge. We're going to put in cartridge unseal and install cartridge number 2.
Good words.
Again, if you're just joining us, you're seeing live inside of Dragon Freedom as Crew-4 begins to get settled into their seats for their ride home today. We're looking for an undocking time of the Crew-4 crew from the International Space Station at 10:35 a.m. Central Time, 11:35 a.m. Eastern Time. Again, we're looking for an undocking time for the crew at 10:35 a.m. Central, 11:35 a.m. Eastern. Crew are getting in their seats. Upon undocking, we'll have a series of burns. The most important of those burns will come a little later today around 3 p.m. 3:01. We're looking for a deorbit burn for Dragon Freedom, and the crew will be splashing down around 3:50 p.m. Central Time off the coast of Jacksonville, Florida. And that's 3:55 p.m. Central Time off the coast of Jacksonville, Florida. Currently seeing an external view of Dragon Freedom docked to the International Space Station's Harmony module. I think right in the below you can see the nose cone for Dragon Endurance, also docked to the International Space Station on Node 2 or the Harmony module. Crew-4 just arrived just last week on October 6th. They had about a 29-hour ride uphill to catch up to the International Space Station. They'll be on a 6-month science mission aboard the International Space Station, looking to arrive and return home next spring. Again, this is live mission coverage as Crew-4 ingresses the Dragon Freedom spacecraft. They are looking to come home today, splashing down around 3:55 p.m. Central Time off the coast of Jacksonville, Florida.
Station Houston on space to ground 2 for the Node 2 camera.
For Node 2 camera.
Unfortunately, that Node 2-1 camera, we have no joy on checking the connections. Can you guys switch to the other camera?
Yeah, apologies for that. We went ahead and turned the camera off. At this point, we're working on hatch closure, and it would just be a view of crew feet as they're working in that area.
Okay, copy, I understand.
It looks like we have about 2 of the 4 astronauts already seated and getting prepared for their flight home. Dragon Commander Kjell Lindgren and Bob Hines are settled in their seats, and we're looking for Jessica Watkins and ESA astronaut Samantha Cristoforetti.
And seat 2, SpaceX, on the seat mic, I had you 5x5. How me?
5x5, thank you. And SpaceX Freedom seat 3, contact on the suit mic.
And seat 3, 5x5, comm check on the seat mic. How me?
5x5 as well. Great talking to you today.
Great to hear from you.
For SpaceX Dragon Freedom, we're going to deconfigure the cabin mic at this time.
We copy. Stowing cabin mic.
If you're just joining us, you're seeing live inside of Crew Dragon Freedom, currently attached to the International Space Station. That's the SpaceX Crew-4 mission, looking to return 4 astronauts to Earth later today, looking for a splashdown time of 3:55 p.m. Central Time off the coast of Jacksonville, Florida. You're currently seeing that the crew has ingressed Dragon Freedom, and we are looking for them to get seated and the hatch to be closed to Dragon and the APES hatch closed on the International Space Station. After waving off for an attempt to undock due to bad weather in the splashdown zones yesterday, NASA and SpaceX managers met overnight for their latest weather briefing and decided to proceed today. We have a go for undock of the Crew-4 crew from the International Space Station, looking at an undock time of 10:35 a.m. Central Time, 11:35 a.m. Eastern. Again, NASA and SpaceX are targeting a 3:55 p.m. Central Time splashdown, with the conclusion of the Crew-4 flight, wrapping up a nearly 6-month science mission for NASA astronauts Kjell Lindgren, Bob Hines, Jessica Watkins, and ESA astronaut or European Space Agency astronaut Samantha Cristoforetti. As its name suggests, Crew-4 is the fourth contracted astronaut mission that SpaceX has flown to the orbiting lab for NASA. It's one of 2 SpaceX flights currently at the International Space Station. Crew-5 arrived on October 6th, again staying about 6 months on the International Space Station for science and research. If you're just joining us, you're seeing live mission coverage of NASA's SpaceX Crew-4 mission. We are currently awaiting Crew-4 to settle into their seats inside Dragon Freedom for their return flight home. After waving off an attempt to undock due to bad weather in the splashdown zones yesterday, NASA and SpaceX managers met overnight for the latest weather briefing and decided to proceed. They have a go for undocking of the Crew-4 crew from the International Space Station. We're looking at a time of undock to be 10:35 a.m. Central Time, 11:35 a.m. Eastern Time. After undocking, Dragon will have a series of burns to get it safely out of the neighborhood of the International Space Station. The most important burn coming later today, that's going to be around 3:01 p.m. The deorbit burn will send Dragon Freedom down to Earth, splashing down around 3:55 p.m. Central Time, 4:55 p.m. Eastern, off the coast of Jacksonville, Florida. Once crew is safely in their seats, we'll have the hatch of the Dragon closed and the APAS hatch of the Node 2 inside the International Space Station also closed. We then will have a break in coverage, but we'll return for continuous coverage upon undocking. We'll have coverage live for Crew-4's mission from undock to splashdown through egress of the crew.
Joe, we've got you on the big loop, ready to copy.
Okay, we are complete through most of suit donning. Waddy is still out of her seat. Suit donning is complete, but out of her seat, not strapped in, ready for hatch closure. And Samantha's not yet strapped in, ready to check the PPR of the ISO valve, looking for a go for hatch closure.
And Dragon, you are go for hatch closure.
You go for hatch closure, so work.
And you just heard we have a go for hatch closure on Dragon Freedom. We'll listen in. We have a great view inside of Dragon, and we can see the hatch.
Freedom on the big loop for hatch closure.
Go for hatch closure.
As we were getting ready to close the hatch, Samantha just noticed that it looks like one of the hatch O-rings slipped out of the groove, so we'd like to push that in manually and then continue with hatch closure. Outer hatch seal.
And Dragon, concur with the action there, push the seal back into the groove and continue with hatch closure.
If you're just joining us, you're looking live inside of Dragon Freedom, where they currently have a go for hatch closure. We see NASA's Jessica Watkins and ESA astronaut Samantha Cristoforetti working to get the hatch closed. We're listening for that final confirmation for hatch closure. Once Dragon's hatch is closed, Nicole Mann is prime and will affix a docking target to the outside of the APAS hatch on the International Space Station and then close it, creating a space between Dragon and the station known as the vestibule. She'll then make her way out of the pressurized mating adapter and close the forward hatch and close the zenith hatch on node 2. Once all hatches are closed, a ground command will be sent to open valves on Dragon to begin depressurizing the vestibule.
We see that black and closed, so request manual override for detail 1.
Standby 1, we are waiting to send a command for hatch close. Standby 1.
Okay, copy that. Standby. In SpaceX Freedom, we see PPRB ISO valve is open.
We copy. Dragon, SpaceX for vehicle reconfigurations.
Go, SpaceX.
HL, just keeping you in the loop, ground teams are looking through reconfigurations after we sent that hatch close command. We are going to perform a small pressure bump here. You'll see, or you might notice some gas injections here shortly as we raise the cabin pressure closer to our free flight boundaries.
We copy you standing by, listening for air direction.
If you're just joining us, you're watching live inside of Crew Dragon Freedom, where Crew-4 crew is settling in for their ride home today. We're looking for a 10:35 a.m. undocking time from the International Space Station. Again, that's 10:35 a.m. Central Time, 11:35 a.m. Eastern Time. And we're looking for the crew to splash down around 3:55 p.m. Central Time, 4:55 p.m. Eastern Time off the coast of Jacksonville, Florida. You heard words from Jake Vendel, the core or the crew operations resource engineer at SpaceX's Mission Control Room in Hawthorne, California, relayed that they were doing an adjustment to the pressure inside of Crew Dragon. We have hatch closure on Dragon confirmed, and we're looking for the APAS hatch to be closed on the International Space Station. Once all hatches are closed, a ground command will be sent to open valves on Dragon to begin depressurizing the vestibule, essentially venting the air inside and bringing it down close to vacuum. They'll pause at about 5 psi for a few minutes to allow temperatures inside the vestibule to stabilize before finishing the depress.
Houston Station on 2 for hatch photos.
With you on 2, Josh.
The photos from the hatch closure there on SSC 17, and Duke pointed out that the indicator, even though we heard the ratchet in, the indicator isn't quite on the closed indication. That may be nominal.
checking. And Josh, can you confirm what step you are in?
Those are the photos from 4.2. We're reporting per 4.8, although we're not there yet.
And Josh, can you report what step you closed the hatch in? We were not expecting the hatch to be closed at this time.
Sorry, Alex. It was the Dragon hatch, Dragon port hatch that Crew-4 closed. We needed to take some closeout photos there, and so you'll find those on SSC 17. There is an indication on our side of closed open, and the indicator is not completely unclosed, but we did hear as they closed it that it ratcheted as expected.
Okay, thanks, Josh, for that sync up. That makes sense to us. We're going to talk it over with SpaceX on that indication.
Sounds good, and we'll continue in step 4.
Copy.
Currently seeing live inside the International Space Station Flight Control Room. Team's being led here by Flight Director Adi Boulos. To his right is Capcom, or Capsule Communicator. That's Alex Kanalinkos. And to his left is the Visiting Vehicle Officer. You'll hear him today as well, and that's Nick Fernald.
SpaceX Freedom on the big loop. We are in step 6.1 of complete suit mounting, ready to pull our arms in and configure for a leak check. Just checking in with you.
And again, on the screen, you see Nick Fernald. You won't hear him today, but he is the Visiting Vehicle Officer. He's in charge and looking after all vehicles coming to and from the International Space Station. He'll be watching as Dragon exits multiple milestones, including the keep-out sphere and the approach ellipsoid a little later today.
In SpaceX on the big loop, you are go to jump into 4.011, tear the suits, but stand by 1 for pressurization.
If you're just joining us, this is live mission coverage of the Crew-4 crew's return to Earth today. We just saw Crew-4 ingress and get seated inside the Dragon Freedom. They currently have a closed hatch, and with that, we'll end coverage for now. But we will be back for continuous coverage through splashdown and crew egress for undocking. We're looking at an undocking time today of 10:35 a.m. Central Time, 11:35 Eastern Time. And with that, this is Mission Control Houston signing off.